Today I'm going to talk about my '06 Silverado and what's been wrong with it. It's been broken down for about 3.5 months, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you what was wrong with my truck, and hopefully this can help you guys if you have a similar platform, 99 through '06 Silverado. I'll make the long story short, guys. What was wrong was the truck had a crank no start, right? And in my case, the truck would run just fine. It would turn on just fine, idle just fine. No issues with pressure, oil pressure that is, or temp. It was not overheating. I mean, everything worked fine, guys. The transmission would shift fine, no clunking, no ticking, nothing like that. But for some reason, my truck would shut off after about 10 to 15 minutes of idle time or driving time. If I would drive it around, it would just completely shut off, like if someone turned the key off. And this would happen, if driving would be about 10 minutes, idle, anywhere from 13 to 15 minutes, it would just shut off. If I try to crank it over, once it shut off, it wouldn't turn over, right? The truck wouldn't turn on. It would just sit there and crank, right? I'd have to leave the truck alone for about 2 to 4 hours, or maybe the next day I'd come back outside and turn it on and it would crank just fine, right? It would turn on just fine. I could drive it again for another 10 minutes and it would shut off, or idle for 15 minutes and it would just shut off on its own. So if you guys are having a very similar issue, so what my issue was the pigtail connector for the cam sensor, right? The camshaft sensor that's behind the motor. There's a crank sensor that goes above the starter, and then there's a cam sensor that goes behind the motor. So the cam behind the motor, that connection pigtail, the wires were exposed and they were kind of twisted around and they were making contact with each other. I'll post a picture here shortly. I troubleshooted this thing for months. Like I said, guys, I didn't want to take it to a mechanic. I'm very hands-on. I like to fix stuff myself and save me some money, right? And I've been using my F-150 to go to work and back. So the days off that I did have, I would, try to work on it here and there for the time that I had, because I do have a family I spend time with and I got kids. So I would try to work on it the little time that I did have for it. And I finally got it running, guys. But I've changed the crank sensor, put an AC Delco. I threw in a coolant temp sensor. That didn't work. I've checked all kinds of fuses. None were blown. I checked fuel pressure at the rail. Fuel pressure was fine in all scenarios, whether the truck cranked or not, or just turning the key over. It had 55 pounds of pressure. When the truck wouldn't crank, I didn't test it. I didn't have any spark. So I'm guessing it was that cam sensor connection that probably wasn't sending any signal to spark the truck up, But yeah, guys, that was my issue. My last attempt was putting a AC Delco cam sensor, right? And the truck I was still having the same issues. So I said, you know what? Well, I'm turning this piece of shit in. Maybe I got a bad AC Delco sensor out the gate. So I took that out and put the old one I had, because the old one I had, the truck would crank for every attempt, right? And this new sensor, it would turn on when it would want, even when the truck was cold, like the next day. I would try to crank it and it would crank over like 2-3 times, and then it would start, but I was still having the issue. So I said, you know what, I'm not keeping this AC Delco sensor. So I got my $80 back off of Amazon. So my last attempt was changing that pigtail connection. And once I did that, guys, I mean, the truck's been driving fine. I just got back from the bank. It was around a 25-minute round trip. The truck drove fine. Of course, I still have a little bit of work to do here and there. I think I need to do like a brake job or something, because when I brake, it pulls a little to the right, but nothing major, man. I'm just happy that I got this truck up and running. But yeah, guys, like I said, if you guys are having a crank no start issue, or your truck shuts off after 15 minutes of idle or driving, and it can crank over after letting it cool off, go ahead and check that cam sensor connection, guys. Make sure it doesn't look like mine did. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope this helps one of you guys out, and I appreciate your time. Peace out.